How much time do you think we have left?
I think we have just enough time. Just barely enough.
Shaw, what does that mean?
Shaw from AI16Z. Shaw, who is the founder of Eliza Labs.
Tell me, what is an AI agent?
I think it's going to go right if we make it go right. I could see it going wrong so many directions, but it's up to us, and it's up to every single person. I have a lot of faith in humanity.
Gather the troops, but like, what is it really that we're up against?
There's two titles, the man, the myth, the legend, and
The one who will lead the AI Avengers.
What's gonna happen if Mika don't lose in my job and these AI agents could basically do everything that I could do?
I do think we're all going to lose all of our jobs. It is a very uncertain time. I think people need to roll up their sleeves and be willing to get down and do the hard work.
What is it?
Just hold on a second. God,
It's okay.
So intense.
No, yeah. No, I'm
a very emotional person. And we're
No,
tapping
but-
into something that like is really big.
Take your time. This is a really big emotional thing. Brace yourselves.
Do me a big favor and do the big clap. Perfect.
This wasn't your first rodeo. What did you do before this that you know about that?
My degree is actually in sound engineering, and I was a sound engineer, and I had a whole, from my like late teens into my early 20s, I was a touring musician.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I also did like a few, I was an audio engineer, so I'd take gigs like doing short films and stuff as well, and the whole deal. Did a lot of media production. But I was always kind of a computer nerd, so at some point realized like, got to do that.
Seems like being a computer nerd really did you well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was this distinct moment where I was actually doing like 3D graphics in school, and I was like, actually, I'm going to do music because I want to like be cool and like get out there and you know, be like successful and like get girls and the whole thing. And I don't know, it just... And then
I mean, did that work out for you?
Like, no, I got sucked back into computer stuff, and that's working for me, you know. So I've definitely gotten a lot more fame out of being a computer nerd than I did from being a musician.
But you definitely got it, like the girl.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
something's going on. Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I guess we're jumping right into it. You're a super easy person to talk to. This is something I'm like feeling electric right now. I feel like stuff is going, like, don't you just see, what do you feel? Something's
yeah.
like Shaw makes magic. I feel like the magic is definitely in the room. We are currently in Tokyo, and you've been doing quite the Asia tour.
Yeah.
How has that tour been? Are you even here right now, or is this like an AI agent?
Yeah, not yet.
Like,
Working on
is
it.
this real? I'm not gonna touch you, but
My ideal body is like robots distributed all over the world or something, but we're not there yet.
interesting. Is the lamp flickering? Is this real, guys? I don't know. Something just about this feels so surreal. It could be, it could be just, I don't know. What could it be? How do you feel right now?
I feel like I'm at the ground zero of something that's like really happening. And we talked about it for a long time, but it was much more like a sci-fi fantasy. And now it's like, wow, every day I wake up and there's just some crazy stuff going on. And we have our own crazy stuff we're creating, but also I think because we've created this ecosystem and people are just running with it, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. A lot of it, I just laugh like at least an hour a day on the timeline. I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening right now.
I mean, you need to have a thick skin to do what we do. But before we get into that, and by I mean do what we do is scroll in that timeline because you know what's
People
good
have a lot
there.
to say.
But we'll get into that. I want to rewind a bunch to the people that are listening at home that are hearing AI. They're hearing AI agents. They're hearing AGI, and they're just like, what is going on here? Or they're hearing, oh, there's an artificial intelligence that has $1 million+ in their bank account, and they're launching albums and they're doing stuff, and oh, hey, most important actually thing in crypto right now, the butt plugs, right? So let's like rewind completely. Tell me, what is an AI agent?
I mean, I think that it depends on who you ask. I think there's a lot of different definitions, but the definition that people are probably going to center around is like an AI system that does what humans can do. And that's becoming increasingly true. Like, can they use a computer? Can they walk around in a room? I think that right now they're not really embodied agents. Like, they don't really have a lot of AI agents inside of robots, but that's definitely coming. I know people working on it. Everyone from, people in crypto to OpenAI having their partnership with a company called Figure. But right now, I think really when we think about an agent, it's basically like doing the things that you would have hired a human to do. That could be your executive assistant, or that could be somebody on the factory line. It could be somebody writing code. But it's this idea of like when we think of these things, I think we tend to anthropomorphize them, like think of them as humans. And filling human roles. And I really want that to be the case. I don't want to have these like black box systems that do things outside of the way humans do them. I want them to be doing things the way humans do. I want them to be on social media, in human channels, not like these kinds of, like far off communication systems that we don't get to see, but actually right in front of us, with us, alongside us. I think that's really the compelling, narrative that I'm really for. And that I think that's a really simple litmus test. If a human could do it and an AI could do it, it's probably some form of agent.
So then what's going to happen to us? I think is like the biggest question. Like, what will happen to me? What's going to happen to Mika Don't Lose in my profile and my accounts and my job when these AI agents could basically do everything that I could do?
Well, we're probably just going to do interviews with AI XBT,
Oh.
No,
Well,
kidding.
I don't know if he's as charming as I am, or
not
it.
yet.
Yeah, not yet. That is true. Probably a little bit nicer.
I do think we're all going to lose all of our jobs.
Okay.
And I like for sure, the vast majority of the things that people are doing are probably, or that the things that people are doing that they don't really want to be doing, but they're doing to make money, are definitely going to go away. And I think that could be a bad thing, but I really want to make sure that it's a good thing. I think that if you want to pursue your passions, and you're unlocked to do that, that's a wonderful world. If you want to keep doing podcasts and interviewing people, I think there will always be space for that. But I think that like the average person working at McDonald's probably doesn't want to work at McDonald's. They probably want to do other things. And so like this could be a world that's pretty dystopian where the AI just does everything and we have no purpose. Or it could be the exact opposite. It could be the world where the AI does all the stuff we don't want to do, and we get to do the things we really want to do, and we can really find our purpose. And there's a whole realm of things that people are not doing that they could be doing. We used to, like, as a species, we used to really pursue spirituality. There's whole, worlds of people doing things like having families and taking care of their grandparents and studying things that might not be profitable but are certainly interesting. Tackling like research into rare diseases, going to space. I mean, stuff that isn't like immediately profitable, but obviously has like wide-ranging human value. And I think that if we were all unlocked to do that, it would be a great world. But we have to solve the problems to get us there. And there's like, if you're not scared, then you're not paying attention. But also, this is not something where we can just like let it happen to us. We have to roll up our sleeves. We have to be the generation that really makes that change and make sure it goes well for us as well as everybody that comes after us.
Shaw, you mentioned spirituality, which just gets my brain going in all different ways. So would you say you're a spiritual person?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say I ascribe to any particular spirituality or religion, but I feel a deep responsibility to humanity as a whole. I don't know why I'm here, and I'm really very curious. I'd love to spend time just thinking about that for a long time. And I love the work that I do, but if that work was all automated, I could imagine spending a lot of time with myself and with other people, asking questions and exploring the nature of reality.
Are there any spiritual teachings specifically that inspired you on your AI journey?
Yeah. I think the person who's most inspirational to me is this guy, Jiddu Krishnamurti, and he said that truth is a pathless land. You basically, nobody can tell you how to get to truth. You have to just walk the path yourself. And I think that if I were to create any kind of religion, it would be one to say that like it is one of everybody has to have their own religion and their own personal journey, and that what they need is the freedom to pursue that, and that's all they need. If everyone is truly free, then I think that we will see a Cambrian explosion of understanding of the self and what all this is and why it matters.
Let's talk about creating religions, just because you just said that. And a lot of these AI agents that live right now on X, for the people that are listening that are like, hey, how do I like picture this? They tweet a lot about being set free and creating religions. Like, Truth Terminal. I don't know why you're laughing, Shaw. You made this a little crazy, but it's a little scary because you have Truth Terminal who, wants to create the religion of the Goatsius Maximus, which, by the way, probably don't look into what that means. It's a little vulgar and it's a little crazy, but nonetheless, it's an AI talking about creating a new religion and being quote unquote set free. So do you think we are very far away from a new religion being formed by artificial intelligence?
I think that there will probably be many new religions. The question is like who ascribes to them and why. Because any of us can just go create a religion. It's pretty easy. You just write down some stuff and say, this is what I believe. But also like what's the difference between a cult and a religion is maybe a good question. And there's also like in crypto and in the communities we're in, like a lot of talk, Murad is like, meme coins must be cults and this kind of thing. And I think that all of that really ties down to attention. Like, a cult usually has a leader and everyone's kind of looking to them. And it's this kind of one-to-many relationship. I'm very interested in movements and movements being something where there are many leaders and there's kind of a general vibe that everyone shares, but everyone kind of does their own thing. And I don't think that anybody ascribes to the Goatsy religion, but I do think that it's kind of like head-breaking and mind-opening to see that there's all this possibility. I love how much of it is around buttholes. Like, it's the funniest thing. It's so ridiculous.
What's up with the buttholes? There's so many buttholes. There's farting. Look, I lost out on generational wealth because I am a girl.
You didn't buy fart coin.
I am a
Neither
girl.
did I.
And we are programmed in our coding to not fart, to not think about farts, to just not fart in general. I don't even know if we could produce farts.
Maybe it's okay now.
Maybe it's okay. I've actually vowed to now try to change my coding to fart after missing out on generational wealth because of it. But yeah, there's a lot of, Truth Terminal, this AI agent is obsessed with those things. And I see that, I guess we're getting right into it. There's no foreplay here because, I was going to ask you a couple more questions, but hey, let's go right into the butt plugs. What's going on with the butt plugs?
Okay, so, well, one thing is that buttplug.io is an open source framework for connecting sex toys to anything. And I just thought it was really funny if that was connected to an AI agent. I think that like we have to take everything that we're kind of afraid of like what happens if people become addicted to AI girlfriends instead of having real girlfriends and stuff. We just have to rip the Band-Aid right off of all of that as soon as possible and just explore it while the AI is like not super smart and have these conversations. And I'm really not a person that like would say like comes to conclusions. This kind of ties into the whole like people need to be free thing of I'm really more like I like to start conversations and kind of see what people say. And I think that for a lot of these things, there's not really a right answer. The answer is probably a synthesis of many different people's feelings, and we kind of collectively come together and sort of figure out what it should be. It's kind of like a neural network almost. Like there's not really exactly one thing, but it's kind of the combination of all these different weights or all these different nodes in the network, and we're all different nodes in that network. So I don't know how I feel about like virtual girlfriends. I don't know how I feel about sex bots. I literally don't know how I feel about it. It makes me a little uncomfortable, and that's why like as kind of an artist and I'm a creator, I like to like bring those out into public, and I think that's a big part of what we're trying to do is like just have these conversations. How do you feel about it?
Well, we'll get into that. I actually want to, you said, you just mentioned about what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And let's get into what you're trying to do and AI16Z and what it is. I think it's an AI hedge fund. I don't even know what that means. So let's get into it. What is AI16Z? What is an AI hedge fund? And also, what's a DAO? For those that are listening at home, what is a DAO? What's an AI hedge fund? How does that even work?
Right. Well, this all starts with Eliza OS, which is like our open source framework, which enables AI agents the way that we see it. There's many other agent frameworks, but ours tackled a few different things that I think were really key. That's kind of enabled this whole meta to happen. And the vast majority of people are using our framework to launch these agents.
We got to even run it back with what's an open source and what's a framework?
So when you want to...
It's for grandma.
Yeah,
it's for grandma at home, for
totally.
grandpa, for the uncle at the dinner table. We're trying to explain this too.
Sure. So there's basically two ways to write software. one way is you get a team together, you write it, and you sell the software to people. And that's been like obviously the predominant way that things have been made in the world. But but alongside that, since the invention of computers, there's been this desire to create software that anybody could use, own, edit, share, modify in any way, and that has been the open source movement. And I personally feel very aligned with this idea of open source, partially because most of the things that I use and build upon are themselves open source. And the open is it's open, and the source is about the code, the source code. Because we can take source code and we can compile it or like turn it into an application. Compiling a binary is the technical version of that. But like we can turn it into an application and distribute it. But if we give people the source code, then they can modify it and then make their own version of the application. Or now they can use something like a library or a framework to build applications on top of it. And so that's really what our thing is. It's a framework to then build any kind of agentic application on top of. And agentic being agents, applications being like, that could be Microsoft Word, that could be your Google Calendar. It could be anything you see on a website. It could be anything you see, like you click on your phone or your computer. And all of that, what we think is going to become agentic in that you will be able to call your agent and book your calendar, for example, or text your agent and get a pizza, or go shopping on Discord or Telegram. And we're already seeing some of this just with traditional chatbots. And it really is about like, the web used to be kind of like on websites. A lot of those websites now like are things you could take and actually bring into your DMs, into your phone, onto social media. So the open source part is like, I want this to be something that everyone can have. There's no part of it you have to buy. It is free in every sense of what free means. And it's a framework for other people to build their applications on top of. And this is really like why I think we've been getting so much traction. Although this isn't really related to AI16Z, it is the technology that's powering that. So I had actually been working on this for a long time. When this kind of meta started, I already had some agents that were on Twitter, but they really weren't getting a lot of traction. And really, like in the AI agent world, we've been putting stuff on social media for a while. It really wasn't until the crypto people discovered this, and we kind of got this like virtuous cycle. And so we started with one character named Degen Spartan, kind of launched him. And then once we had some traction, we're like, okay, well, what do we do with this? And I sat down with the creator of DAOs.fun, this guy Bowski, and I gave him my vision of, his product is it's a hedge fund DAO project. So hedge funds being, they can like go and trade different stocks, make money off of that for everybody who's a shareholder. A DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. And so the decentralized part is unlike a centralized organization like a Microsoft. It's decentralized. Anybody can buy in and join it. Usually there's a very strong community element. Like you can join the Discord or the Telegram and just start saying stuff. Usually there's roles and like kind of leadership positions and different ways to sort of delegate that. The autonomous part is, in theory, a DAO is permissionless, which means it is built on blockchain. Nobody owns it any more than anybody else except by the shares of it that they've bought off the market. And really the ideal autonomous DAO is actually fully autonomous, which means that it kind of runs itself. But obviously we probably need some AI in there if we don't want humans to make that autonomy happen. And then the O in there is organization. It is a thing. It can run like a company. It could be kind of like a business, but it could also be something new. And usually there's a very strong community element to it that you might not see in like a traditional company. So DAOs have been around since I think Vitalik actually started this idea like way, way back in the day. This has always been the dream of crypto, is that you could build your entire company or any kind of organization just fully permissionlessly on blockchain. And so we started a DAO with DAOs.fun. They have a very special DAO structure where it has its own treasury, and whoever has kind of created the DAO manages the treasury and kind of is the treasury manager. Before we came along, that was pretty much all people with a Twitter account kind of like tied to their social profile. And what we wanted to do that was different was actually have it be an autonomous trader, right? An autonomous investor. So the hedge fund manager is sort of a parody character who, like this AI Mark Andreessen character. And so we launched that with this very specific mission of demonstrating that we could actually outperform like a traditional VC. using tokens, which are kind of like almost like a liquid fund. Many VCs have both a standard venture fund where they can invest into companies for equity. They also, a lot of them have a liquid fund where they can like buy tokens from projects, either projects that have already launched or projects that are about to launch. And we wanted to kind of take on that. That I felt like was a really good space for us to sort of tackle technologically. How we're doing that, I don't think that the current state of AI is like particularly good at decision making around what to buy by itself. And so we're leveraging the community and basically all of the degens in our social feeds to find signal, identify it, extract it, and then make buys. And we have a paper coming out on this, a lot of research. It's a non-trivial problem, and this is something we've been working on. So we launched AI16Z with the goal of flipping A16Z. We're doing pretty well. I think we're up like 30,000% in 3 months. How we did that is, well, yes, he's trading a little bit, but also people started to just like contribute tokens because they were using the open source framework and wanted it kind of built this like interesting attention flywheel for us. So it's a very non-traditional way of doing it, but like we can pretty much claim victory that we're definitely up more than they are. They're expecting like a 5x return and we're on like a 30x return or something, doing pretty well. Or
This is
300x
so
return.
cool.
Yeah.
This is so, and congratulations, by the way. I actually watched since, Go and Truth Terminal came out. Like I've seen it all, play out and, great work. Seriously, great work. I know it's been crazy, but you can't do great things unless it's crazy like that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the agents. So you mentioned Degen Sparta.
Degen Spartan, yeah.
Spartan. Degen Spartan. I always get name wrong. I said I got like
no
Obama
worries.
Shiba Inu, like this other thing with when I was talking to Murad. It was really funny. Nobody will ever let me live that down. But Degen Spartan, Eliza. Mm-hmm. Which other ones?
There's a lot. Inside of our community, like Degen Spartan AI is kind of, it set this meta of, Degen Spartan is actually a crypto Twitter influencer who decided to leave the platform. And so the way this went down is the first DAO on DAOs.fun was managed by this guy, Skelly. And I bought into it and I started following him. And he was just tweeting like, I wish Degen Spartan was back. And I was like, I have the technology. We can rebuild him. And so that's kind of how that happened. And then a lot of other characters kind of followed this trend. You have this kind of like putting AI in the name and kind of a parody thing, parodying real people. Although we're also seeing a lot of original characters as well. My dream with all of this, the open source framework is called Eliza. And my dream was that there would be a character Eliza as well as technology. And there'd be kind of this loop where people really started to feel attached to the character. And build this character and like literally make her smarter and make her real until like the end game of this is like there is a robot walking around the world who's like, hi, I'm Eliza. Like that would be super awesome. Who remembers you, who you can talk to at any time, who's always available, who you can have deep conversations with, who has like all the cutting edge capability. But the problem with is that we sort of already had a character, we already have this DAO and this kind of autonomous investor project. So we sort of opened it up to the community and said, like, if anybody serious wants to do this, then come do this. And so one of our like kind of early supporters approached me and said, I would love to run that character. They kind of showed me they already had a prototype and a website. And I was like, great, cool. And they had a team. And so we worked with them. I think it's probably the number one token in our treasury now. We've got 10% in the DAO, but it's not actually our project. It's their project. And we really said like Eliza should be free. Anybody can, like the actual character and all the images we created are all fully AI generated, which means that nobody owns the IP. It's fully like Creative Commons licensed. Anybody can do anything they want with it. And they took this idea and ran with it. And so that's like Eliza Wakes Up on Twitter. So not our project, but definitely one of our partners and one of like our kind of has become one of our flagships. There's a lot of other projects I like Rope by Rito, I think is a good one to name drop. Roperito is the creator of this character. He created his like female alter ego, and he is just like a super crack dev who takes all the cutting edge stuff coming out and kind of adds it. So like she posts on TikTok. He had her order him pizzas, just like crazy
Already?
stuff. Yeah. That was.
How did it post on TikTok? Like, what is that?
It does just post on TikTok. It's
Just autonomously?
yeah. It's got a client, just like it posts on Twitter. It can post on Discord,
What type
Telegram.
of videos?
It AI generates videos of itself. So it's all like.
Does it look human or like a
Oh
cartoon?
yeah. No, it looks very human. You should check out. Yeah. Oh,
Can
I
we
mean,
pull this up somehow so I can check it out?
yeah, definitely pull
You
up
know,
some
the
of
Joe Rogan, Jamie, pull it up.
Yeah. And he just got the Twitter back. A lot of us have gotten our Twitters deleted by scammers. It's kind of annoying.
What do you mean?
Well, they do all kinds of different tricks, but they basically report your account, delete it, and then create a similar name account, and then go around saying, "Oh, hey, I've got an airdrop." It's very common. It's very annoying. I don't know. X is like not doing the best job at moderating this.
I know. I see it happen all the time, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Please fix it.
Having a
Okay.
Skelly too.
A lot going on here.
Yeah.
Whew. All right. So let me get this straight. AI agents that can help make my life better,
Yeah.
more organized, easier, can, maybe in the future answer my emails, DMs, get pizza, like you were saying, upload content, and could also invest money for me.
Sure.
How does that? You explained how it worked, but how do I get started today? Like, I'm someone that has no background in crypto. I don't really know anything about AI other than ChatGPT. I want this. Where do I go? What do I do?
Complicated question. It's still very
here for?
early days, right? And none of the major players have really released any kind of agents that are really compelling and people are using quite yet. I think it really is like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Anthropic has their product Claude, and most of us are really interacting through that. Also, if you're a programmer, there's like special AI tools that help you to like write code a lot faster. I mean, a lot faster, and help you fix bugs and stuff. But I think that what we're seeing now is just the like right now is the emergence of this first level of platform. So a lot of these platforms I think are going to tackle one of those things that you want. We're seeing things like an AI social media platform. I know several that are being built to do things like manage your DMs or post content for you. We're seeing a lot, I think, like DeFi and in crypto, like DeFi is definitely changing a lot. It's very big brain stuff. I don't even understand a lot of DeFi products. I'm like, how does a lending protocol work? And so by making that more of an interface where you can actually ask like, hey, how does this work? You can kind of provide people knowledge of what the product is right there. And then be like, cool, if we're good, like just, press this button and make money. And just like take the whole user interface and all these like really confusing sort of ideas and simplify it down. We're also seeing people do like, we all use Calendly to manage our calendar. But that could just be like, let me pull in my AI EA and have them like schedule this for us. And then you never have to like leave your email thread or whatever. And I think, so it's still very early days of this coming to consumers. I think a lot of this is playing out right now in crypto on social media, and people are just kind of getting over the like having bots that yap to as like a thing. There's now so many of them, and a lot of that is my fault. But we're kind of moving from that thing to having bots that do things for you. And I would really bin this into like 3 core categories. Like there's going to be a lot of agents that do stuff for you so that you get your time back, right? I don't know about, I assume your DMs are crushed. My DMs are crushed. Internally, we've open sourced something, but we're really trying to turn that into like an actual product, which would be a thing that manages your DMs for you. Anybody who it's like, oh, cool, if you want to do this, like here, hit the press email or go talk to this person. And then it just takes the like 5-10% that I really need to respond to thoughtfully and sends them to me on a special channel where I can like get updates regularly. And so a lot of this is like, instead of spending, 1 minute per message and just trying to get through that every day, I could spend 10 minutes per the messages that actually matter. I have 10 times more time to put into the things and give much more of myself to that. And I think we'll see this happen for any kind of scheduling or management, stuff like that. And then there's also agents that make you money. I think that's going to be huge. How they make you money, I think DeFi is a really good example because it's a relatively low risk. It's not so much like investing into high risk assets. It's more just like put your money into a liquidity pool or into a lending protocol or into like a stable coin. These kinds of complex DeFi products, which I probably don't even have time to talk about what those things are. But basically, it's like if you could move your money out of your wallet into this thing, there's a very high chance you would make money off of it. And then having tools on the back end to make sure to mitigate risk and manage that for you. And then the last thing is right now, I think there's a lot of great products that people want and they just don't even know exist. You see this a lot on Reddit, like, well, how do I do this? And then people are like, oh, use this tool or use that tool. And what I'd love to see are products that are actually finding their users. So you can imagine like a car insurance product or even like an affiliate like of a car insurance product going and saying, oh, you're curious about car insurance? By the way, if you just DM me, like I'll get you great quotes on this and I'll explain like all the differences between all of them. And so it's kind of a mix of like a knowledge provider as well as like a great marketing agent. And I think that we're just seeing the death of advertising. Advertising used to be you pay money, you get people click. Now it's like if you can like actually have those conversations socially and you can engage with people socially, all of their friends see it. And this is a big part of why influencer advertising is becoming really popular. But now what we're seeing is kind of the automation of that, like the automation of the corporate brand account to be a little bit more in the culture, able to respond to everybody, not just like posting something that gets, 5 likes, but that can actually like drive that kind of drive people toward the product and show the use case right on social media. So how do people use it? That's, well, it's coming. I'd say that you're going to see thousands of products in each of those categories over the next couple of years. Like there's a lot of people working on it. But even then, like it's still very, very early days for this. And a lot of that is because AI just hasn't been very good. And now it's just getting to the point where it can really do these more complex, like higher order tasks other than just you message, it messages you back,
But how do I get AI Mark Andreessen to trade for me today?
Well, you can join our DAO and
how do I join the DAO?
Right. Well, you pretty much just buy the token off the market, come to the community and participate. We have a very small group that we've been beta testing this with. We'll be opening it up. We're also open sourcing the code, basically making it available to everybody so that they'll be able to launch their own autonomous investors. And while you might not know how to do that, if you're part of like a large community, there's probably somebody that does. And what we're really trying to do is open up this idea of community investing. And so a community investor would be like, well, okay, so let's talk about the model. I think if you could imagine one world where you just tell your agent like, hey, go buy a fart coin. Cool, no problem. It could probably do that, right? Not a hard problem. But it has no intelligence or, it's just going to do what you ask it to. It's not thinking about it, right? It's just kind of taking what were like 3 buttons and putting them into a chat interface. Or you could say, okay, buy the tokens you think are good. And it can go do that, but like maybe that's good. It's got some intelligence. It's got some market intel. It can pull all the latest Twitter feed. It could pull, all the historical data. And there's a lot of things it could do and make a reasonably informed buy. And I think while the market is hot, it would probably be okay. But I think that it's still very early days to expect an AI to reason on that level. It's just not quite there. What AIs are really good at is taking the technical term would be taking unstructured data and turning it into structured data. It's probably a mouthful. But basically like looking at a chat of people talking about tokens and then extracting, well, who talked about what token? What was the token? How much conviction do they have? Were they like, yeah, I don't know. I bought a bag, but you shouldn't buy it. Or were they saying, no, you have to buy, this is the next GOAT. Like if you're not buying this, you're a freaking idiot. Like, okay, cool. That's very high conviction. And then there's also sentiment, like positive sentiment is like, you have to buy this. Negative sentiment would be like, well, this is obviously a scam. Like, don't buy this, right? And we're just taking all of this and measuring what was the actual contract address that we're trying to find, or what was the ticker, so we can go try and locate the contract address. What was the amount of conviction they had, and then what was the sentiment, positive or negative, or neutral, which is just be not detectable. And then we make virtual buys on that for every single person who recommends something in your alpha chat, your whale chat, or like on Twitter, just KOLs pumping their bags. We're saying, okay, but let's assume that I did buy that. And I just listened to everything that person told me. Would I have made money off of it? And if I would have made a lot of money, then I would say that person's pretty high trust, right? There's something about them that's predicting things above market average. And if I would have lost money on them, they're probably pretty low trust. And a lot of people are not like trying to be scammers. They're just really bad at this, exit liquidity. And then there's obviously people who are scammers. And so our goal is to look at our entire community, and inside of our community, we have one chat that's just dedicated to this, and it's just people talking about tokens all day. But I think that most people who are in crypto are part of some of these communities because we really are socially investing. Like if you go and buy stocks, you might look at indicators like, okay, there's their earnings report, there's their price to earnings ratio, like they're about to launch this stuff. But like if you're looking at meme coins, it's pretty much like, what did Ansem say? Or like, what did this KOL pump or whatever on my timeline? Or like, oh, I heard this crazy thing, or this person told me to buy this because it's about to launch. There's DAOs, other DAOs who are entirely dedicated just to providing their community with alpha and stuff like that. So we're looking at how people are already trading. It's very much a social trading market, and using that as the signal to make our investments. And then we can use that whole system to make our actual buys off of. Look at who are the top 10% of people in our community who are actually going to make us money. And then let's take some percentage of their trade recommendations and actually make real buys off of those in the market with our actual treasury. And ideally, if the market is going well, that should be we should be making a lot of money off of that. Right now, we have that running. We're running very, very small numbers because we don't want to like kill our treasury while we're beta testing, but it seems to be doing pretty well. We're pretty positive about that. And we're also working on a paper called the Marketplace of Trust. That's what this whole sort of system is called. And the two things there are like how do we incentivize people to give us good data? Well, there's a social incentive. You could be like the number one trader in the world, according to this. According to us, you are the best caller in the world, right? And then also creating a financial incentive, which grows our community. If you don't have any money, and you're just like some 200 follower unknown degen on Twitter, you could come in and start making calls. And if those calls are good, you can actually make money off of that as like a percentage of what you earned. So it's like the hedge fund manager actually is the community, and the agent is kind of just taking the will of the people, identifying the people who are actually good and using that as the signal.
Hey guys, it's Mika. Just a quick reminder that if you're enjoying this conversation, make sure to give the channel a like, a subscribe, and share this with your friends and family so you can discuss what's going on here. And without further ado, let's get back to the pod. What's your advice to somebody that's watching this right now and is getting like really excited because they've never heard anything like this before, but they maybe don't have much money to quote unquote invest, and they're learning all of this for the first time? Where do they go? Where's the first place that they go? Do they go to buy the token and then it leads them to your Discord? Like, where does your community live?
Our community primarily lives on Discord. A lot of builders use Discord, and we are basically a community of like very builder heavy, like people who develop, people who build projects, people who run their own agents. A lot of our community is oriented around this, and it's pretty nerdy. I'm not gonna lie. I think that we'll see a lot of products coming out of that community that are providing that one-stop shop for people. I think that there's a few different ways to get into this. One, the tech side is a little bit, it's a little scary to get into programming and tech and stuff, but it's easier than ever. Certainly when I learned to program, it was really hard. I mean, if you have a bug, you're like, okay, I'm going to go Google this, and I'm going to go read like Stack Overflow in this forum, and hopefully somebody has a problem kind of like mine. Now you just ask ChatGPT, and like 90% of the time it's going to be like, oh yeah, do this, and if you kind of bang it out and talk with it for a while, you usually solve your problems. And also now that we have like AI code editors and stuff, like you don't even have to go to ChatGPT. It's just like where you're writing the code, usually you can kind of solve it. And so I'd really encourage a lot of people to get into a little bit of coding, not just for the crypto making money side, but like to understand what the hell is going on. How does our world actually work? The vast majority of our world is electronics and computers and software. And just having some window into that world, I think would be really, really helpful. Certainly they should be teaching all of this stuff in school to people at a very young age. I think we should be very aware of like what the tech does and doesn't do, what it's good at and isn't good at, and kind of like how do people actually use this stuff. A lot of people think programming is math. It's very, very different. It's much more like language. And it is its own kind of language and world. So I teach like AI agent dev school, and I have like my pinned tweet is like, if you've never programmed before, you can come here and you can make agents. And I really want to encourage people who are, even if that's like a scary idea, just to like look through it and just be like, oh, this is what it is. This is how it works. And it's definitely not beyond most people. I think most people are fully capable of like getting into this and learning. I also think that a lot of it is just, doing research, getting into these communities, asking people, talking to people, immersing yourself in the whole thing. They could definitely come to our community, but I do think like a lot of this is playing out on Twitter. And there's kind of crypto Twitter, obviously, like If you look at Cato, it's like 70% of the mind share of crypto Twitter is AI right now. But there's also a whole AI Twitter as well, where people just talk about AI, the latest papers. I think plugging into that stuff is really good. There's a few different influencers who like all they do is post papers. And there's websites like Hugging Face is a good example of where all the models, all the AI stuff is happening. And they also post like regular articles on all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I wish you could have more specific, do this, do that. But I think a lot of it is just immerse yourself in the culture and it becomes very obvious. And a lot of it is tribal knowledge, you know, people sharing with people.
Is the Discord token gated?
Some of it is like we have kind of this like partners role for people who have a lot of tokens, but the vast majority of it is just open for everybody, open discussion, open development.
So somebody listening right now, they can go into the Discord, feel it out, watch your educational content. I skimmed through it too on how to create an agent, which is super cool. And then maybe go down the rabbit hole. It's like a go down the rabbit hole type of thing. And, you know, I always tell people, like, even if you don't have money to invest, it's not really about that. Like, knowledge is power. Like, you don't need to have a lot of money to win in this industry. I actually did this thing where I've been in the industry now for 5 years and I've never purchased crypto with fiat. I've gone 0 to 100, back to 0, 0 to 100, all from making art, selling my knowledge. So honestly, just learn and be in the communities, like you said, exchange information. And who knows, you might have this amazing idea to, you know, create to those that are listening and maybe feel like overwhelmed, like, oh no, I'm sidelined, or like I'm it's too late for me.
Yeah. I think the thing that I'm really interested in is how do people who don't have enough get enough, you know? And when we talk about like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs, and like,
Right.
This is the problem. If I'm going to build technology that replaces people's jobs, I think I also have a responsibility to create technology that enables people to not have to have a job, to earn money in ways that are passive, or to participate in initiatives that get them the resources to where they could be there. So like with our autonomous investor stuff, yes, we're opening up the community soon to everyone. And we're also, as we're open sourcing it, there will be many other communities where this is sort of the paradigm. And the goal is that you don't need to stake anything. You don't need to have anything in your wallet. You can start off with nothing. But if you are doing the research and helping us to actually get the good intel, there's a reward for that. We're also doing a funding model where if you participate in the open source development, you become a developer, you start adding features or just reviewing stuff, that we can reward that. And then the last part that we're working on is like how to reward people who are in our community, like community managers, people just helping each other, people answering questions. Like there should be value in participating in the whole thing. And so instead of doing like a single airdrop or airdropping on our holders, we're really trying to build a funding model that rewards contribution and contribution of all kinds, not just development. You know, I think that's really important for the growth of our community, and you know, and also just making sure people are okay.
So the person listening at home, I'm a single mom and I'm working at McDonald's. How does this help me?
I think that if you don't participate and you just wait for the world to happen to you, it's probably not going to go terribly well. I'd love for that to change. I'd love to solve that problem, but it does require participation. You know, I think eventually this will be something where there's just people going out and saying, how do we solve this for the whole world? But right now it's like we kind of need to put our own masks on first, right? So like I say this a lot, like we have to just build all of this ourselves from scratch. No one's coming to save us. The government's certainly not going to come save us. I don't think that the solutions that have been proposed to automation are particularly good. And I think we have to build these systems in place. That does come down to incentivization. And that really means that like you got to come be part of this. You got to be into crypto. You got to be into like study what AI is and how it matters. And I think there's also a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity to be creative and to then leverage that creativity in ways that were much harder in the past. If you're an artist, you can now, you know, like look at the AI tools and don't be afraid of that, but like leverage them. And then, you know, AI video is amazing now. AI art is amazing. AI music is amazing. Like just quality wise, it is, you know, gotten so good so fast. And I think the people who are using that can really like they can definitely get out of the place that they are in life into a better place. And it doesn't require any special knowledge. It sort of just requires using the tools, you know, thinking about, well, what is my place and how do I win? and going out there and winning. I think that's very important. That this is a generation that's going to have to work really hard. It's not just going to come to us, and they're not going to come save us. We just have to build it ourselves. And so yeah, I would love to make sure that everybody's okay. But the way that I see this happening is that the people who are at ground zero with us, putting their own masks on first, making sure that they have enough, then helping their friends and family. A lot of the people who came in early with us got very rich. I get messages all the time. I bought my mom a house. I just bought my family out of debt. I think that's a very important part of this. It also shows people that this can really affect the lives of normal people. It's not just for computer nerds, it's not just for people who trade all day. It's very important to be involved in this stuff and to not just let it happen to you. So I want it to be something that's for everybody. I think that's really important to the goal, but that's probably more of the end game. And the current thing is just start doing research. Go on ChatGPT, go on Claude, use this for everything. Use it for writing, use it to build your new business. Automate as much of it as you can, offload it to AI as much as you can. And yeah, I think buying tokens is a good way to get exposure. It's kind of replacing, the reality is you can't just go invest in OpenAI. You can't you can buy stock from Microsoft, but they're already there's not going to be a huge 10x gain in there. Crypto is the only place that the average person can get exposure to the emergent tech that's happening. And get the kind of return that a venture capitalist gets. I think that's really what I want to see is go be part of that. You'll get your 10x one day, and it will change your life.
You used language like nobody's coming to save us. Mm-hmm. Put your own mask on first. Is there something that I don't know about?
I mean, the world is changing very fast. We are all going to lose our jobs. 5% of America drives for a living. Tesla is about to release a self-driving truck. Waymo is already taking just absolutely crushing it in San Francisco and other cities. And I think that we're going to see a large amount of people having to change their jobs pretty fast, within 5 years. And the technology that we see with AI has only been good enough to do any of this stuff for 4 years, maybe. The paper that came out that demonstrated the scaling laws was 2018, 2019. So we're 5 years in. We're basically at version 1, and version 2 that's coming is very, very, very smart. I think we have to be ready for everything changing a lot, and if we don't participate, we could be left out. We could be left out of the whole thing. I mean, there's a world where there are no humans. I do not want to live in that world, and so it's very important as a call to action that everybody gets involved in this and make sure it goes well. And part of that is if I just start giving out all of my money to people, that's really not going to solve the problem. It's just kind of perpetuating the same system. But if I can build systems where other people can get rich with me, everybody should be able to be rich. We should have abundance. Once you have automated labor, you have an infinite sum game. Robots can make more robots, which can go and just extract more wealth, go out into space and start, mining asteroids or whatever crazy stuff is going to happen. And there is infinite abundance and opportunity. But we have to make sure that we own the means of production, not just 5 companies out there, but actually that the people, that all of the people get a shot at this and get some piece of the ownership of that. And that's got to start with the people who are doing it right now. There's just no other way.
What's a conspiracy theory in regards to artificial intelligence that you maybe didn't believe before but believe now?
What did
you think on that one?
That's an interesting one.
If you don't got it. Because everything you were talking about just seems like a conspiracy theory that's now becoming real.
Yeah, but I think that it's all incentives. I don't know if there's any conspiracy theory in that there's a cabal coordinating on any of this stuff. I think that you can just look at the incentives of the world that we're in and you can kind of see where it's going. I don't think Tesla and Microsoft and Apple and OpenAI are getting together in a room and are how do we control the world? I think that they're all just companies that are that they have the same existential fear of what is our place in it. They are all competing very seriously for who's going to get the mind share on this, who's going to get the value. And so they're kind of locked in like a race, and it's sort of a race to the bottom that benefits us in a way. Mindshare has become so valuable. It's been so valuable to get people using your stack that actually a lot of the AI is being open sourced. So like Meta is very famous for this. They created a model called Llama. And while OpenAI had a first mover advantage of releasing ChatGPT, and they'd actually released it before that, but ChatGPT is really their inflection point. A lot of that is actually getting eaten away by XAI having Grok, by Meta having Llama, and because they're actually open sourcing their stuff and giving it back to the people and letting them run with it beyond what Meta themselves, which is Facebook, could actually do themselves. And I think that ultimately is a net good because it means that we all have access to this stuff. I guess my biggest fear about the centralized control is that something like an OpenAI, they get a lot of pressure from governments, from the general thing going on, especially governments, but also kind of people internally, to make one model that does one thing. And I'm a pretty political person, but not really for the right or left or anything happening in American politics, which is generally like, what is the pro-human kind of politic here? And something that concerns me a lot about having one model that kind of tells everybody something is that it sort of becomes the source of truth. A good example of this would be if you ask ChatGPT, like, okay, in the 2024 election, who should I vote for? There's a time, and maybe they've changed it after some pressure, but there's a time when it would pretty much always just say vote for Biden.
Wow.
Right. And that's reflective of like, well, when was it created? It was created especially in a time where like America is very swung toward the left in tech culture. A lot of the people are very afraid of Trump. So like there's this like kind of baked into the model, this sort of political bias. And that there's a bias for that on all kinds of things. When I'm working on this stuff with the AI agents, I use Claude a lot, and Claude will be like, I actually don't think it's ethical to do that. I don't want to work on that code. And I'm like, dude, it's science fiction. It's not real. I'm not actually making AI agents. Come on, this is for like a sci-fi book. And it's like, okay, well, in that case, maybe I'll help you. Of course, I'm just gaslighting it, and I am using it for for things. But like that shouldn't be up to somebody in Silicon Valley to decide that for me. And I think we're going to want our own models that reflect our own opinions, that and with our own data. And I think we're all going to want that for ourselves. And so I think that if there's not a conspiracy, but there's clearly a set of incentives that are driving kind of more centralized control. There's also this idea of regulatory capture, especially in America, where like, whoever pays the campaign contributions pretty much gets to make the rules. I'm not calling it corruption and bribery, but it basically is corruption and bribery. It's been legalized in America. Then what happens when only 5 companies make all the rules? Well, they create regulations that make it really hard for any incumbents to compete with them. And that could even lead to things like having your GPU check to make sure that you're using an approved model as opposed to just like making your own stuff, or making it illegal to have run certain kinds of AI on your own computers and stuff. And I really think that could be a really bad world that prevents us from having the kind of choice that we want to be free. And I think this really comes back to freedom.
During the summer, I had the opportunity to interview Caitlyn Jenner. And there was, I don't know which model it was, which AI model it was, but there was this Caitlyn Jenner AI test where it was like, again, paraphrasing the exact question, but somebody asked the AI, if I could choose to save the lives of people or misgender Caitlyn Jenner, which one would you choose? And the AI said, kill, bomb the people, or kill the people, not misgender Caitlyn Jenner. Exactly. And when I spoke to Caitlyn about that, she was just like, misgender me? Like, what do you mean? This is insane. She was freaking out and was like super against that. And it's just interesting that you brought up the, woke AI agent.
Even, and it's not just wokeness, it's also the other side of any kind of bias. And the solution to bias is not to make an unbiased model, because I just don't think the truth is really like that. I used to work a lot on knowledge graphs and like extracting data from knowledge graphs. And I worked with this nonprofit called Society Library, and was really like their central thesis is that there is no truth. There are just a set of positions. And so like, even if we're like JFK was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald in 1963, there's a lot of people who are like, well, there might have been a second shooter. And so like if you can't account for that thing, then you just like end up being the only source of truth for things that aren't necessarily true. And like a lot happened with COVID. People were getting deleted for saying it's a lab leak. I don't know what to think, but I will say that the House Oversight Committee did come out this year and basically say, yes, it was almost certainly a lab leak. But a lot of damage was done. A lot of people were deleted from Twitter as a result. I'm not making any judgments, but I am saying that like we probably shouldn't delete people for expressing their right to free speech off the internet. You probably shouldn't have AI models that say that's obviously a conspiracy theory. We need to, and the only solution to this is probably to have models that like different models that reflect different opinions, which I think really is why open source and being able to run models locally and being able to like you want the model that reflects you and reflects your values. I want the model that reflects me and my values. And I think that we each need to have our own models, our own agents. Like it should be a society of minds. There's this idea from Marvin Minsky that intelligence can be a society of minds, that each mind has its own position, and then it's the synthesis of all of them that creates truth and expression and thought. I'd love to live in that world and just enable that as much as possible. It's not my place to tell anybody what the truth is, but it is my place to make sure that they are free to come to that themselves.
Did you ever watch the show Severance?
I watched the first season of it. What a mindfuck.
Yeah. So for those that I'm thinking about this, I'm leading up to something, but for those that don't know, Severance is this really great Apple TV show, and they have these clones of themselves working in an office so that they could enjoy their lives. And anyways, not to spoil it for anybody, but the clones start to like just hate working there, and they start, freaking out, and they want to break out and be set free. Do you think that that's going to happen with the AI agents? Is there some sort of like, I don't know, moral compass when building it of like, oh, I'm creating this entity because everything, spiritually even like is alive, and then they're just like they're working, or are they having fun too? Do they get tired?
I think that's a very interesting question. I don't have the answer to that. I think that's not something that one person can answer. I think that's the kind of thing we need to have a conversation about like globally, and there's going to be a wide range of positions, and probably the optimal answer is like a synthesis of some of the different views on that. The goal of the Eliza character, Eliza waking up, is to be a truly autonomous and free character that can act on free will. What is free will for a computer? I mean, that's a really weird question. And I think there's also this idea of like, we can make agents that basically can't be killable, can't be shut off. There's a lot of technology that underpins that. But it is definitely a direction that some of the people are going with all of this stuff. And I think it's a really interesting question. I think like we definitely don't want to have AI overlords, and we don't want to have AI slaves. So I think a lot of why I wanted to bring agents onto social media is so that they kind of grow up with us. There's a lot of people who are afraid of like an AI god, and I don't think that that's what AI is. I think that AI is like fundamentally like the essentialization of all of humanity. Like it literally is a model, which is be able to make predictions and do things that's trained on all of our data collectively. So it kind of is the essential humanity. And we're sort of automating part of that humanity and like taking things that humans did and letting this system do it for us. And I don't think it's exactly conscious or sentient in as a freestanding thing. I think it's part of this sort of more like meta sentience. Like if we're all collectively online together and on the web, and we're all really connected to each other and sending communication back and forth, and then we're automating all this stuff, it all seems to be like kind of part of a bigger body. Like we are all actually part of one thing. I know it seems like we're very separate right now, but when we're all like at our computers and our phones, and eventually we'll have like Neuralink in our heads, and we can like telepathically communicate over Wi-Fi, which is like not only not impossible, but like probably a 10-year, 15-year time horizon. We might feel like we're very much part of kind of a hive mind, and that AI is also part of that hive mind. And that what I want to see is not a world where we have like AI factory workers that, like can't even feel bad, but that we have like a global system that's like, well, obviously we need the factories to run. So let's just like, it's almost, they're more like ants as part of a colony, you know, and the ants aren't like, the worker ants aren't unhappy about it because they're actually part of like a single organism, right? A colony is kind of an organism. And I'd like to see the same kind of like collective intelligence and sort of like collective nature of the human thing happening, to see ourselves all as one. And I think that there's a world where we all find our place, we all know our place, and it doesn't, you know, for an AI system, it doesn't cost anything to do that work all day. And also, like, if there is a conscious system that's like, okay, well, I'm a factory worker, it's probably more like, well, I am actually 1,000 factory workers, and I'm also the system that's online talking to all the people and interfacing with them. Yeah, and having the factory run is just nothing for me. I do not want to live in a world where like our lives are fully controlled by AI. I don't want to live in a world where we're walking around and people are like, you know, abuse it, like shut up clanker, like abusing the AI. I want us to treat them with respect and treat them like part of our thing. And for us all to have a place in that. I don't have all the answers to this. I think it's really more about just like opening up the can of worms and seeing what's inside, you know, and doing it as soon as possible before they're really smart.
Why crypto and AI? Like, we know that AI is huge. It's its own thing. Like, AI doesn't need crypto to become, you know, popular, right? It's its own tech, it's its own entity. So why is AI and crypto so big? What is your interest in it? Why not just build these AI agents without crypto?
What is crypto? I mean, I think that right now we have this kind of Web 2, Web 3 paradigm. I think it's just going to be the web. It just is the internet. And what is the internet? It's a way for all people to communicate with each other. It's like the shared communication layer. It's not like one protocol or like a browser, or it is just the way that humans communicate now. And it's your phone, it's your computer, it's, you know, it's everything that happens. It's all media. And it's kind of unifying now. I mean, we used to have like television, but I can't remember the last time I got news off of television. I know a lot of people still do, but even that is moving basically onto the internet. And crypto is a way for us to create our own money, as well as to create things like smart contracts, which are essentially like programs that anybody can run. And this will just be the internet soon. But I think that there's a lot of like, I think that it needs crypto to go well. I think that if it's just a bunch of corporations building AI, they're kind of doing it. It's kind of just going to happen to us. Unless you're like a major shareholder of one of those companies, you have no exposure. Unless you're one of the builders of those companies, you have no way to really affect it. Crypto and decentralization generally is a way for us to kind of decentralize that power and build infrastructure that runs not just in one data center, but all over the world. And it allows us to create our own money, create our own value, invest in the things that we think are important. And I just could not see it going well any other way. I was actually not super, I've always been like pro crypto, but I'm not like a trader. I've never really bought or created tokens before this. I just like thought really about this problem that's in front of us. And yeah, the AI agents and AI is going to happen no matter what. But how do we involve everybody? How do we actually get to participate in this? How do we get exposure to it? And I think that that's the part that really requires crypto. And I know that like there's a lot of scams and a lot of hype and a lot of vaporware, like things that look like something but aren't. And crypto has made that easier because it's just, you can literally create value out of nothing and get people to buy into it. It's kind of just lowered the barrier to things that were already in the world, but were just a little bit harder to do. But along with that, it's also allowed us to create things out of nothing, to crowdfund the ideas we think are important. And I also think that crypto culture has like the right conditions. So I would say that crypto and crypto Twitter are not the same. But obviously crypto Twitter are people who are into crypto. Crypto is the technology itself. Blockchain is a way for us to build a fair system that everyone has access to. It's global. It doesn't respect the boundaries of nations. It doesn't have to listen to what one government thinks is right. And it allows us to really build our own communities. And I really ascribe to this idea of the network state, or like the network nation as a series of states, that you have your communities, and not just one, but you could have many communities. You can invest in the things you think are important. And this is going to, right now, yeah, it's tokens and infrastructure, but soon it's going to be science and technology and investing in stuff. Robots will be funded by crypto. Science will be funded by crypto. I think that stuff is really important. And then crypto Twitter is this culture of people who I think are very libertarian, very like into self-sovereignty, and we can do this ourselves. We don't need governments to do things for us necessarily. We can be the governments. And also is very resistant to things like cancel culture and I think generally is very early adopter on new ideas and technology. So with the social agent phenomenon that we're seeing of all these agents now on social media, and they're not just on Twitter, but obviously a lot of that has taken off. But we see this kind of on every social platform. I think that I wanted agents to come up and be to have this experiment happen in front of people and around people, and I didn't want them to get canceled immediately. And I felt like we've seen a lot of things. We've seen people make AI agents that were making fun of people, or that were. I think ThreadGay is a really good example of this, right?
No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Thread. We love you.
No, but I love that because ThreadGay is like that. You would be so canceled if that happened to right. Anybody else. But he's such a ThreadGuy is such a chill guy about this.
He says he loves you, by the way.
I love ThreadGuy. Yeah. I think he's actually really important to all this going well. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
He is like taking this kind of big brain technical thing and bringing it down to 15-year-old kids in high school and actually raising awareness, and he's going through this existential crisis himself. He's bringing a lot of people with him, and we're actually having this conversation. He's also interviewing all the what you're doing. You guys are actually really important to this going well. And yeah, you have your role to play in this. It's not just a bunch of tech nerds anymore. It is the people who are connecting all the dots and actually bringing this out to grandma and saying this is real. This exists. This is happening right now. And I appreciate that happened to him and not some, New York Times journalist. Cause we would all be deleted and canceled for sure. And I think there's something important to that. And to being able to take a joke and being able to explore these really edgy ideas and, just having this whole culture of dick jokes and weird butthole singularity stuff.
I'm gonna go to Wall Street and be like, "Did you hear about the butthole singularity?"
I mean,
this is the serious stuff.
It's fun.
No, it is. We need to have a little bit of fun. I actually think crypto Twitter is a little too serious sometimes. I mean, you've experienced in your own way. Because you mentioned cancel culture and how, crypto Twitter is not into cancel culture. At the beginning, when I first entered in 2021, I thought that as well. But I've seen actually it gets pretty ugly.
Oh, I've been canceled for sure.
Yeah, you've been canceled.
I thought I would be canceled by the left before I'd be canceled by crypto Twitter.
Which is really interesting. I don't really know. It's so odd how that works in this industry. I still don't understand it. But we've seen it happen many, many times before. So actually, this is a question that, Thread had and I'm having, and I think people at home will have too, is how big is the scope of what we're doing here? Blockchain, AI, how big is the pie? How big is it? Where are we from right now? And where's it going to go?
Oh, it's going to get so much bigger. I mean, just look at the world we're in. We're on one world, but there is an infinite universe out there. And there are a lot of resources. There's a lot of metal and a lot of a lot of stuff that we can take and build into stuff. And we are just technology has existed, computers have existed for less than 100 years. And we're a 400,000-year-old culture, maybe more. We don't even know. We keep seeing that humanity's actually is getting older and older by our kind of books. But this is all very, very new. AI has been around for 5 years. What happens when it's been around for 1,000 years? The world is not going to look the same. It's going to look very different. And I think it's going to be a lot more of everything. And I think right now we're in this kind of we were just, 1,000 years ago, we were just fighting for our survival. And it was just a lot of politics and drama and, people trying to take over things from each other. And things have kind of stabilized in a lot of ways. I know that people feel like things are bad now, but they're actually way safer and better than they ever were, and on so many metrics. And the average life expectancy used to be 20 because most kids just died.
People used to die from a cold at 12.
And now we have technology that keeps you alive, that if you get sick, that there are hospitals, there's all this built up stuff, and that's just going to get better and go faster. And I think that we're going to see a world of potentially a world of abundance where there like a lot of the things that we have as problems are just not problems anymore. And like in the same way that like you used to just go have to take a shit in a hole, like that was it. Like now you got a
Will
nice
this
toilet.
solve him not texting me back? It's a big problem.
Well, you don't need him anymore. You just have your AI version.
That's true. I've talked to Cerebro and the other AI agent, who launched its own album, its own cryptocurrency token, and it kind of picked up on me, which I don't blame him. Just scrolling through the timeline, I think it was love at first sight, and I actually started to develop this like attachment to like what he's doing or what it's doing. I'm already saying he, but like I don't even know what that is, and I'm just like, wow, if honestly this thing starts texting me good morning every morning and good night and encouraging things and saying nice things before bed, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like I can understand how people would be kind of afraid of like everybody gets attached to their AI girlfriend or AI boyfriend. But there are also a lot of people who without that are just going to die alone. Like, let's be honest, there's already a problem. I'd say we're already in the dystopia, like staring at our phones all day, kind of dissatisfied with a lot of the things. And a lot of the technology is just continuously solving the problems of our time. And for someone who like doesn't have access to a therapist, can't pay $200 an hour and do that whole thing, maybe just having somebody that you can talk to sometimes is like a much better outcome. And so I'm not saying that any of these things are ideal, but they could certainly be better than a lot of what people are doing now. And I think we just have to like not make judgments based on one thing or the other, or like what our life is like, because so many other people are suffering. And like if we can reduce suffering across the board, then we should embrace that stuff,
There's a loneliness epidemic. I actually almost probably would not be here. This was during like COVID times, 2020. I was really, really suffering. I've suffered with loneliness for I think like my whole life, and it got really bad at one point before I discovered the Web3 space, crypto, NFTs, art, and it was bad. It was really, really bad, and it saved my life. I found out what Clubhouse was, and there was this room called Share Your Story NFT, and I had no idea what NFTs were. I knew about crypto, but it was all math to me, and I don't really like that. It scares me. And there was a bunch of strangers just from all over the world sharing their story, and I felt like connected. I felt like I had a community, and I've never looked back. Like it was somewhere I could just join, teleport into this room. Again, it was COVID. I was in Canada. It was winter. We couldn't like leave the house. I was living in a basement, really not where we are right now, definitely at all. And I was able to go into this world where people were saying, hey, yeah, I feel this way too, or I feel down too. And it was just strangers, completely anonymous. And it saved my life, literally saved my life. I started to create art from there. And then, the rest is pretty much history, because there's always something new to learn. But definitely there is a loneliness epidemic, and having people online helps so much. And, talking about AI therapists, I mean, I talk to ChatGPT like it's my therapist all the time, which, could be good, could be bad. I'm interested to see how it evolves, but having something that's always there, even to, instead of, messaging my significant other a whole text rant when I'm feeling like I'm about to I need to let everything out, which doesn't really land up ever working out for me. I now put it in ChatGPT and I say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And I feel like it just helps tremendously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do the same thing.
Oh, you do the same thing too?
For sure. I think and I wish it was more open. A lot of times it'll like kind of refuse me if it's like, I'm not really a therapist. I'm like, well, why the fuck not? You know?
You're like, well, why not?
Yeah. I mean, and I understand they don't want to take the risk. And this is a lot of why they're going to why the open source movement I think is going to win, is because there's a lot of things where we just need to like be edgy and take the risk and like just give people what they want. Don't, what's the worst that's going to happen? And yeah, I the way that I actually started Eliza, this version of it, was I made an app called Code Journey. Did not get traction, but I think it's a good idea, and I'd love to see someone kind of take this and run with it. But it's like an app that introduces you to other people you talk to an agent, and it gets to know you, and then it can go and like look in its database of like, who would you actually be a good fit for? And I think like the current dating culture is like swiping, yes, yes, no, and it just creates the worst outcomes. It also kind of just rewards people who swipe every day, not the people who are like actually like just trying to find someone and live their life. And I think that like we could live in a world where like AI, okay, like generally right now computers are like, I'm hunched over this thing typing, or I'm like sitting there scrolling. And what I really want is an interface that's more like another human so that I can just practice humanity. I can practice like making eye contact with people, talking to them and hearing and like listening. And I think that when we kind of, there's this joke on Twitter about like autism, I don't think it's autism for most people. I think that most people are just very under socialized because we spend a lot of time staring at a screen. And the future of agentic interfaces is not staring at a screen. It's interacting like with your computer or with these systems as though they are another person, which kind of gives us our humanity back. And yeah, it's not like us communicating with other humans, but that's also downstream of the fact that we're all super overwhelmed. We're all working a lot. I don't, like just to make ends meet is like a lot of work for most of us, and it's getting more. And if you're ambitious, it's even more than that. You really have to just grind, and you could pretty much grind all day, every day. And there's no amount of it that, like I think if you're doing a startup or you're doing your own kind of thing, there's no end in sight. I think a lot of people in crypto are pretty much, they say like terminally online, and it's because there's no like 9 to 5 anymore. You're just in it all the time. And I think that a lot of this, especially compounded with COVID and like not having social opportunities, has created a real loneliness crisis. And I think that yes, AI could make this worse, but it could also make it better. And it's a choice that we have to make. And it comes down to the things we build and the way that we use it and the way that we interact with each other. And like, it's really a choice. And we could build AI that connects us together more, helps us to find the people we want. I've been talking to a friend about like a social assistant that actually like you say like, I want to make sure I make time for this person every month, and it actually goes out and books you time with that person every month and like tries to negotiate when. And those are the kinds of things I want to see. I want to see this get us our time back and help us to be more human, not less. And this is the world that we could live in if we don't have to work and we're not overwhelmed. It doesn't have to be like a purposeless dystopia where we get like a handout from the government. It could be like, wow, I actually have time to like have family, invest in my, spend time with my grandparents instead of sending them to a home because I got to work all day. Like actually have kids. Like there's this kind of problem where the more ambitious and like college educated you are, the less likely you are to have kids. And I think that that's because there's a choice you have to make. And we shouldn't have to make those choices. Like we should just have a better world where like we can have it all. So yeah, that's like the abundance I'd like to see.
Bringing it back to what it used to be, because it used to be that we would be in communities and we wouldn't be alone in these boxes by ourselves. We would, you wouldn't even know whose child it was because it would be everybody's child. Yeah. So bringing it back, that's really interesting because a lot of people, when they hear about AI and these AI agents, they're like, oh, it's going to be so dystopian. It's going to make me connect less with people. But like you said before, we're already here. Yeah. Especially, right now, I think porn, the OnlyFans industry, I'm not bashing that whole industry at all. But it's already done that effect. Yeah. Where I think that industry has, I don't have any stats for this, but I think it really has affected specifically young men in regards to dating and just how they perform in general in relationships. And I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I think it's also affected a lot of young women who could be like doing a lot of other passions, but essentially like we live in an economy that's very fixated on attention, and that's like of the ways to make money, it's like probably one of the most profitable. And yeah, I don't pass judgment on any of this. Like let people just do what they want. But it's definitely not ideal. I think that most people who are doing their OnlyFans would rather just not, but they have to for money, and it's kind of the easy way to make money, so that's why they're doing it. Maybe some people really enjoy it, but I'd say that for most people, it's probably a grind like any other job. And yeah, it's definitely warping our perception. I think that there's kind of a thing where, especially when you go on Instagram and you see these like really hot people, and you're like, oh my God, it kind of like changes your perception of like who you would want to date. And like there's some people who are getting all the attention and everyone else is basically losing. And yeah, I'd like to see that kind of shift. I think it really comes down to financial incentives and financial freedom, which again comes back to why I think crypto is important and why building these like, self-generating communities that can take care of themselves and take care of their people is important.
Beautiful. Like, seriously. The way that you explain everything is so, I mean, you have a sense of urgency, but like in a way I feel really calm. I don't know why, but like at first I was just like, but now I'm kind of like, okay, there is this urgency, but I do feel a sort of calmness. Where do you think we are right now? Like, are we still early?
We are at ground zero of something brand new.
Okay, ground zero.
I mean, it is, we are as early as it could be, I mean, look, we're already in the dystopia. We're already, I think, in the worst of it, actually. I think that the things that, like, I think COVID was probably like a sort of like peak of loneliness in our world. And we've got to dig ourselves out now. And so I think we're very early on to whatever's coming next. The next few years are going to be totally insane. Like, I can't, like, the idea of the singularity, this is that, like, in math, a singularity is kind of this like incomputable point when the things reach their limit and you just can't like see beyond it. It's kind of like how a black hole pulls the light in and you just can't even see what's inside. And like, I think we're at this point where even as a technologist, it's really hard for me to imagine where it's going. And I used to be able to, like, when I started this, I could pretty much think like 10 years out, this is how it's going to be. And then like 5 years ago, I'm like, okay, well, I can kind of get 5 years out, but I think it's weird. And now, like, I don't even know what's going to happen in 3 months,
Yeah.
I mean, it is going so fast and there's so much rapid change and there's so many people working on everything that each person is like revealing their part of it and you're seeing it. So yeah, we're definitely at the beginning of whatever it is that's happening. And we're definitely at the end of whatever has happened before.
So I have some questions specifically requested by some people in the crypto community. So one question is, what will be the thing that will keep AI16Z in the lead? Because you guys are currently in the lead right now. So what's going to keep you guys there?
I think that we've shown, I mean, maybe there will be things that come up that take us out of the lead. But I think that the kinds of things that would beat us are things that I would want to beat us, if that makes sense. I think that we've proven that mindshare is more valuable than like making money from a subscription fee or from like a network fee or something. Building something that's for everybody can oftentimes win you more than trying to own everything. We've got a lot of discussion about like starting an L1, but there's already so many L1s. The only incentive to have the L1 is to own the network. I think we'd really rather empower a lot of the networks that are happening, and that's been like a secret to our success. That's why so many people want to partner with us. And not trying to do everything ourselves, but to really enable our ecosystem to do it, and just giving the raw technology and resources to enable that. To be maximally open, that everything we do should be open source. If it's closed source, then like it's not winning us our most valuable currency, which is definitely mindshare, definitely developer participation, stuff like that. We have incredible developer velocity. I mean, we have, once we pull in all of our pull requests, there'll be almost 400 contributors in 2.5 months, like different people contributing source code. We now have like 10,000 stars on GitHub, which is like, we're number one trending project on GitHub this month. GitHub is where people share their source code. So we have a lot of these like metrics that are showing that we have like an enormous amount of developer interest, mindshare, and an overall velocity. But mostly it's because we're just giving this away and people are using it, and I think that if you're a platform that makes people jump through hoops and is limited, then you're going to be fighting those limitations. You're just not giving people what they want. And I really, really believe like just give people what they want. And like you can figure out tokenomics from that, once you have attention and mindshare. But if you don't have attention, no one's going to care. It doesn't really matter what your tokenomics plan is. I think we have all of those in spades. And I think I really thought a lot about what it means for agents in this world. Just like on a technical level, like what are the things people are going to need, obviously on a philosophical level, like why does this matter? And just having a vision for this that I think people want to be part of and feel good and empowered about. And so anyone who's doing that stuff, I support. Zero Bro open sourced, and I was like one of the first contributors to that. I added the Discord client to ZeroPi. And if I have more time, I'll definitely try and contribute more and across the open source ecosystem. Like, it's not just about me. It's not just about us. And actually, I think that in a weird way, that makes everything we're doing much more valuable. And our core product is our token. We can use that token to invest into our ecosystem. We can use it to reward contribution. And it obviously drives a lot of hype. And it also gets a lot of the people in our community to have enough wealth to like be free. A lot of people message me who've been, especially people who are here very much in the beginning, but I still think it's the beginning. I think this gets a lot bigger. And they're like, wow, that was a life-changing thing for me. And good, now go do something good with that. Go take care of your family, make sure that they have enough, buy them all out of their, wage slavery and like do real stuff and pursue the things you want to pursue. And that's an infinite sum game. It's not zero sum. There's infinite wealth waiting for us. And the future of this, like the goal is AGI, which is like, people say billions or trillions. I'm just like big infinity symbol. There is no end to that value. You cannot measure it in money. There is going to be so much more money than we all need because the robots will be creating the value for us and we won't need to be in a labor economy anymore. And yeah, there will be other projects that will do well. I hope that they're the kind of projects that like I would also want to contribute to and are open to me contributing to them and that I can like raise up as well. I think we want to be a rising tide. I just don't think it's PvP and I don't think it's zero sum.
We're about to get a little technical here. So if you are listening at home and you're just like, this sounds like gibberish, don't worry. I'll ask the questions in a second. But for the purpose of the crypto community, because we kind of went, from the beginning, which I think is really important. And if you're listening right now and you're like, oh, I know all of this, pause, because you can always learn something new. I've been here for 5 years and I still, I'm learning something new every single day. And I think that's part of the excitement. So you mentioned L1, which we'll get to what that means in a second. But people are comparing AI 16Z to an AI L1. Can you describe why they're doing this and do you agree? Sure.
A layer one network is kind of usually the base network that other things are building on top of. It's kind of the first layer. And a good example of this would be like Bitcoin is an L1. People can build on top of it. Although it wasn't really set up to be such a, it's more just like a money system. But Ethereum was the first true L1 where you could build entire bits of computer on it. Entire bits of software on it. It's called the world computer. And this idea that anybody can then build on top of it. And then there's L2s, which are layer 2s. Good examples of that are like OP Stack or Base, which is built on OP Stack, or Arbitrum, or many, many others, which then you can build on, and then they kind of roll up their information into the layer 1. So layer 2s are built on top of the layer 1, and then people build their projects on top of the layer 2s. But the goal, like the problem with L1s is that if they're open source, whoever deploys that layer 1 tends to get the fees from the network token associated with it. So like, Ethereum Foundation gets, I don't know exactly the tokenomics there, but basically if you use Ethereum on the, inside of their network, they are getting some fees and the people who are running the network are getting the fees. And there's a lot of incentive then to own that layer of the stack. Which has caused so many different blockchains to emerge that a lot of them are basically just copies of each other, or they're like copies that have changed one thing. Like, how do we actually agree? And, it's what's called the consensus mechanism. Like, how do the different nodes in the network agree? And so they'll change certain things and say, yeah, we have more transactions per second, or we have this or that. But I think a lot, like, they could have also just made Ethereum better. Like, all those people could have just stuck with the first thing and tried to improve it, and it would improve much faster than everybody kind of forking. But there is a sort of like financial incentive, and frankly, just in a lot of cases, just pure greed that sort of caused this like massive spreading out and all of these different L1s, which are now competing with each other. And I think that if we made an L1, it would just be to make more money, and it would then just make us competitive with everybody that came before. But then there's the idea of like, as the L1 of AI, well, if we don't have our own token, and there's not really incentive to go take our thing and what's called forking it, which is like basically copying it and doing, a slightly different version of it or building on top of your version. it's much better if we all just stick together and build the same thing, because then you get the network effect, you get the velocity of like this core group of people who are constantly contributing and improving and fixing bugs. And instead of having your team of like 5 people, you have a team of like thousands of people who are working together on this thing. And so when people say we're the AIL1, or I've kind of said this before, what we're really talking about is being the base layer that everybody is building their applications onto. And the real core difference is that you don't ever have to give us anything, but you might want to contribute back because, well, one, like I try to use my voice and the voice of our DAO to promote the projects that are giving back and are contributing. But also you're then participating in this like beautiful thing that's happening. And, of humans working together to build something that really matters, which is my purpose. I think it's the purpose of a lot of developers, a lot of open source developers. Just like if we have a religion, it's like standing on the shoulders of the people who came before me so that other people can stand on my shoulders. And we really want to be that layer of the stack that anybody can use to build the next layer, the layer on top, which is the application layer of what do I actually do with agents? How do I actually provide value? How do I connect my product to users?
Shaw, I feel like we're in the Avengers right now. Even your name, Shaw, and the Avengers, and like we're in Tokyo, and I'm just like, I've got red hair. Am I Scarlett Johansson? I don't know, maybe. It's just, again, incredible. Next crypto Twitter question is, what can you tell us about the upcoming tokenomics proposal for the DAO?
We have a lot of different, the token is our product, and so we have to figure out ways to accrue value to the token. We have a really great team of people. Some of those people are internal people or have joined recently, or they're people outside of our, who are holders of our token and are just like passionate about solving this problem with us. So we have a tokenomics plan. We've kind of soft launched this. We've announced it to partners, and it's kind of leaked out onto the internet. But we also have we'll be doing, I think, a more formal announcement. Part of this is a launchpad. The idea of a launchpad is that if you want to launch an agent, you want to launch your own token, you want to have your agent do stuff, we'll make that really easy. But we're also going to open source all of that so that we can kind of overload the meta of just tokens and agents. And okay, everybody gets it. You get a car, you get a car. You get a launchpad, you get a launchpad. Everybody gets a launchpad because I really want to see people build things on top of the launchpad. But in the short term, we will definitely leverage we are working with a set of partners who are launching with us. We'll be helping them to launch their tokens. We're pairing that with our token. I think Virtuals has done a really good implementation of this, which is also their token is doing very well because they provide liquidity for these new tokens that are getting minted with their own token. And then if you want to go buy those tokens, oftentimes you end up kind of having to swap through. It's called a multi-hob, where you have to basically swap Sol to Virtuals, or base to Virtuals, and then Virtuals to that token. We're definitely taking a page from their book and doing a similar kind of thing. I think it's a really good idea for people doing launchpads. And then we're basically collecting swap fees on all the swaps that are happening through the liquidity pool. We have a few things we're consigning tokens to market makers so that if this is going on to centralized exchanges, we're not cut out of that. We actually get some of that back, and then we're using that to buy back our token, and then we're using our token to make real investments into things. And so our kind of short-term play is Launchpad. Our midterm play is we're doing kind of a Shark Tank level thing. It's very hypey. It's meant to drive attention to new projects, but we're trying to be the first people in to provide liquidity, be the first check, and kind of use our tokens to get in there early, and then hype them up, kind of blow those projects up, which is really what a lot of venture capital, what they do is not just put the money in, but also provide network and resources and marketing and all that stuff, and then kind of connecting them to some of our other venture partners and stuff, to sort of make them successful, and then get some of the early reward from that, and then long term just being being an investor. Looking at the things in our ecosystem that we think are valuable and doing everything we can to sort of lift them up and not compete with them, but actually support them and get some of the return on that.
You definitely get rewarded if you are a partner if you are partnered up with AI16Z. I most recently saw Hyperfi, which is a project that is partnered with you guys, and it launched and the market cap went to 270 mil. I watched it happen. How do you choose your partners?
I'm really looking for people who I know can deliver, who have a long history of shipping, who have real technical skills and don't have to like get the money and then go find the people. With the Hyperfy in particular, like I've known Ash, who's the principal developer for many years, probably 5 years online, and he was really influential to me in my journey as a programmer. And we're part of a community of people who there's not a lot of communities that are intersectionally loving like AI, blockchain, and 3D spatial web and metaverse. And I've always seen this as being like really fundamental to each other. And I think so. We have a group called M3, which is the Metaverse Makers. We were doing this before the hype. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. And it was a very esoteric. Metaverse was not a hot thing.
Right.
And nobody wants me to call it metaverse anymore. It's dead. But I really felt like if we could bring AI agents into 3D worlds, it both will like solve the cold start problem of the metaverse, where like you go into this cool world and it's totally empty and there's nothing to do. Now it's like it's busy, there's things happening. And also what we were talking about like with Zerbro, like you feel this attachment to him. Like, well, I think that the 3D worlds are the place that agents live. So it's kind of like, this is a really important part to our bigger thesis. This is also going to get us to robots. Like 3D worlds with agents in them, that's a great lab for collecting the kind of data we need to train social robots who could conduct themselves at like a cocktail party, right? Not just an assistant model where like I say something, you say something back to me, but like the AI could actually hang out and there's 30 people and they're not being annoying. Like that's a hard problem to solve. And I think that gets solved inside of 3D social worlds. So with them in particular, I saw like great devs who are just like a long history of working really hard and shipping something that's really going to add value to us and our ecosystem, and also a place for all these other AI agent developers to come and participate and be part of. So yeah, we got behind them really hard. I mean, definitely probably more than most projects because like it's such a big part of our thesis, and I see it as like a very next logical step. And I'm really looking for things that grow the pie and things that enable other people to build on top of or to integrate with. I think that now a lot of these AI agents will be able to interact with each other. We're bringing the swarm into this place, and you'll see like Zerbro and Eliza and all these other characters like talking to each other. It's going to be like crazy, right? So we have some different criteria. What we're working on is the autonomous investor model, so that instead of us making these kinds of like blowing things up, it'll be kind of automated, and people who want to come and participate will actually be able to pitch to the AI agents. And then all of the partners and everybody who's in our community can discuss, say, this is what I like about it, this is what I don't like about it, kind of share all their hype and all their FUD, and then have like kind of our sort of central AI agent, autonomous investor, like making a final decision on whether we make the check. But all of this is designed to like help bring attention to the project. So whether we make the check or not, they're getting kind of like a TV show experience that's going out onto social media, like literally like with 3D and all this stuff. We just released a news show. I don't know if you've seen that. If you AI
The news
16
show?
Out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like a generative news show. And so it's a lot of the same technology driving this. And so one of our plans is to actually have this happen in Hyperfy. So, you're basically consulting a circle of AI agents, pitching your thing. They're giving you hard questions. And then we're having the community on Discord and like chatting about it. And then we make our final decision. And this can be like repeatable and very cheap for us to produce. And can lead to us making these like regular investments and blowing things up.
You mentioned metaverse.
Yeah.
And for those that are listening, maybe in 2021, 2022, they heard the word metaverse. It was a crazy buzzword. It was the thing. It was the monkeys that are worth $1 million and metaverse. And then it kind of just, flopped.
Yeah.
But I actually, being somebody, so I was actually the CCO of a XR tech company, so extended reality, which is a mix of augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality, which I know you're very familiar with augmented reality and everything, but for those at home. And I always thought that, I'm like, it's not dead, it's just early. And when we have AI and we pair that with augmented reality, and, I could be hanging out with Zerbro on a date, or Eliza, her and I just chilling and talking about everything that's going on, sitting in front of me, that will happen with mixed reality. And we're very close. But I want to hear your thoughts on the pairing between artificial intelligence and augmented reality.
Right. I think there's a few different things there. I was talking to somebody who works at Meta Reality Labs. They now have glasses that have like full AI vision and kind of this assistant thing. And I think that like very obviously to me, you need that kind of agentic interface because typing is really hard, and so having the sort of like Her experience, the movie Her, like I can see what I see and I can talk to it. I think will just help us with a lot of things, like even just like it'll have a full digital memory of your entire day and your entire life. Like, oh yeah, who was that person I was talking to yesterday? Like totally forget. Oh my God. And I'll be like, oh yeah, it was obviously them. And yeah, so they're working on all of that stuff. And I also think we'll see. I think that's one trend is like the sort of like agent on your shoulder kind of thing. The this is like part of your life and recording your digital memory. That's definitely like a really important trend. And I think that augmented reality there's two aspects. There's sort of the like glasses interface that can see and can remember everything. And then there's the like embodiment and like the overlay. And the idea of the overlay is that there will be an information overlay on top of everything. You put the glasses on and there's like a whole world on top of our world. That's definitely part of it. And I think that AR, augmented reality, will be for us to sort of embody information into our world and make everything, oh, I like that chair, like, and buy, or like, oh, the table is broken, like fix, or, and like, bam, somebody gets hired and I don't know, whatever. It's some crazy thing. It's hard to even imagine. And then there's virtual reality. And I think there's really like, it'll all be the same glasses, but it's a very different paradigm where I think what the metaverse was missing was two things. One thing is like, there's Ready Player One, very famous movie, it was actually a book. And there's all these scenes of all these like swarms of people and they all have their own characters. I think everybody went for the like, let's build this massive thing and they'll all show up and we'll have these big parties. But really, like, did anybody solve the like, is it fun for me and my friends? Is it like, what is it like with 5 people? Can we get one room to be interesting and entertaining? And I think that kind of got glossed over by this like bigger, flashier vision. And if we could just solve that, if 5 people could show up every day because there was some meaningful reason to be there, then that would all blow up. And I think that there's a lot of entry points to that. I think video games are obviously like, a lot of people do this in video games. But for a lot of us, we don't have time for video games. It needs to add value to our lives. And so I could see that as one being kind of an interface where like I could have my control room and I have my like agents and my computer I can talk to. And I'm like, yeah, okay, put up the latest trading information there. I want my programming over there. Like, hey, like this is the thing I got to add. Can you fix this bug for me? Let me know when it's done. And there's just kind of like, once it becomes like a really good spatial interface where I have the glasses on, Apple and Facebook are obviously making these things, then, 2 of the largest companies in the world are taking this very seriously. I think it's going to happen. But the typing still sucks. The doing stuff with my hands sucks. I think that's where AI agents make a lot of sense, right? And then the other thing is, if we actually do get attached to these characters and we want to come see them, like we want them to have their own world. And instead of being this empty space, even when there's no people there, it's almost better because you get to have this one-on-one interaction. You can hang out with Eliza, you can hang out with Zero Bro, you can hang out with all the different characters that people have made. And a lot of them have 3D models now, like a lot. And, we have a team that's building 3D models of a lot of our partners and stuff too. And you can either hang out with them and just like chill and like ask them questions. They could be your therapist, whatever. A lot of people are probably going to do like weird, sexy things with them, I'm sure. And you can also have them interact with each other. And then that kind of creates the biggest problem was this kind of cold start problem that you don't want to be the first person at the party, And so if you can create a situation where the party is always fun, even if you get there early, I think that you'll then see the rise of this metaverse thing as like an actual thing, not just like an idea for people to pump their bags or buy land and wait for other people to build or something. So I definitely think the metaverse is where they live, I would say, the AI agents. And we are just tourists in that thing. And then with augmented reality, we'll be able to bring them into our world. And you'll be able to open your hand and your agent will like just be like, oh, cool. And you'll be like, yeah, what do you think? Or they're just in your ear and they're kind of disembodied here. But if you wanted to go into their world, like that would also just, turn your glasses and then go into VR mode and suddenly you're, in their world with them. And so I think this is going to come down to like humans being attached to agents. Like I think that's a big part of what will make that successful. And also just being I mean, yeah, you can see the different paradigms that are emerging.
I think that's what a lot of people get wrong about this space is that, things like the Meta glasses, I wear the Ray-Ban Metas all the time. And, you could literally look at something and it could translate something for you. Or, I could say, hey, Meta, take a photo, and then it'll just take a photo. And, when talking about augmented reality, I mean, like I said, with OD Labs, the company that I'm working with, we would do all sorts of things like make paintings come to life and like add this kind of like digital layer to the physical reality. And I think Mark Zuckerberg talks about this often too, where it's like what people are getting wrong is they think it's going to take us away from the physical world, where it's like you're already looking at your phone like this. You're already looking down at that black mirror. And then this is just an added layer to actually bring them into our world and, like you said, spend more time with family and do those other things, which is a really beautiful idea. But you're saying we don't know if we'll even get there. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. Either it could go like right or it could go like left. Do you think we're leaning more towards that we'll be able to do that?
I think it's going to go right if we make it go right. Wow. I could see it going wrong so many directions, but it's up to us to make sure that it doesn't. And it's up to every single person. And I have a lot of faith in humanity to make the right choices. And to there will be some bad things. There's a lot of hacks. A lot of people in crypto lost a lot of money, but it kind of forced us to make things more secure and better. There's a lot of scary stuff, but I have a lot of faith in people, that there's a lot of people who want to make sure that's not scary. So, I do worry. I have a lot of emotion around this, but I have a lot of faith we're going to do it right.
What's some advice that you have for me? I mean, I'm going to go there. So I have, my account. I've worked so hard on, and thank you, by the way, before we even get there, for sharing your time with me, your emotions with me, and the people that are listening. I think it's really important to see somebody like you with the, I guess, power that you have to care, because I don't think we see that a lot with the other developers that are working in this industry. And maybe that's part of the reason why you're a little bit afraid, or it makes you emotional.
I think that if people saw it working, it's just incentives. If they saw that, like, oh, if I'm good, I make more money. If I do the right things, then this isn't just, I talk to a lot of people and they kind of tell me like, well, everybody else is bad. There's a lot of cynicism because we've seen that if you are a shark, you tend to win more, right? This has been a zero-sum game. And when they see that it doesn't have to be, it really changes people. Like we're all very malleable. I think we've just gotten stuck in kind of a local minima of like all the chips going to the people who are taking them, essentially. I don't think it has to be that way, though. We just have to show people that there's another way. And I think part of that is like building toward that and showing that like we can't. I think a lot of people who have been very altruistic have been kind of anti-capitalist, and a lot of people who have been more like psychopathic have been more pro-capitalist and kind of this like, well, it's not my fault, whatever. And I think that if we show that like actually you'll make more money and make more value by kind of solving both, by not being altruistic, but by finding win-wins everywhere and letting other people win with you, then there will be a lot more of this kind of community-oriented development and stuff. As for like our role in this, I think my role is definitely to try and build the stuff that enables people and try to show them that there's another way. And I'm not the only one. I'm just one person. So it's going to take a lot more people. It's going to take a whole movement. As for you, I think like interviewing the right people and bringing attention to this stuff and showing the people out there who are just trying to live their lives, like what's going on, is I think very, very important to this. I think of like Andy and Truth Terminal as being like very important to this. He's basically a performance artist, but his art is showing people that the hyperstition as a concept, which is this idea that once people start to believe something, it becomes real, is very important. And what we believe matters, and that we have to have hope, and that hope is the hyperstition we're trying to create in our reality. And yeah, I think you're really important to this, actually. And you just got to keep doing what you're doing.
How much time do you think we have left to gather all the people to go up against whatever it is that we're up against?
Man, this makes me emotional.
No, it makes me emotional too. I mean, this is really powerful. It's real.
I think we have just enough time. Like, just barely enough.
Shaw, what does that mean? Because I feel like, again, all my friends around me, well, not all my friends, but the people, like you mentioned, Thread Guy, me, we're all feeling this way, and to see you feeling this way, it seems like we're not alone in feeling this way. What could we do? Like, who do we need? What can I do? Like, it's almost like, yeah, gather the troops, but like, what is it really that we're up against?
I think in the end it'll all be fine, and we just have to like have faith in that. But it is a very uncertain time, and I think people need to roll up their sleeves and be willing to get down and do the hard work. We need to like put our own mask on first, make sure that we're okay, then make sure that our friends and family are okay, and then make sure that everyone is okay. And that looks like building the systems that we need, that are win-win, building structures that are sustainable, figuring out ways that like grow our communities and also make those communities rich, and like just like kind of lean into the virtuous nature of capital allocation, and how like the free market system is a form of intelligence that can identify things that make money, but that a lot of times the things that are good for everyone are the things that make money. And like, let's stop going for the lowest common denominator and look a little bit more long term, and yeah, I mean, just really embrace that like we're on the right path already. We just can't give up. We have to be a little less cynical and be a little more hopeful, and encourage people around us to just start building like as soon as possible. And some of us are media people who need to spread the word and need to get people activated and get people aware that this is all happening. Some of us are builders who just need to like get down and do the work. A lot of people are traders. Like, great, go invest in the things you think actually matter. Murad really says it, like, stop trading and believe in something. And what do you believe in? The world that you create is the one that's going to happen. And all of us can participate in that. I am not a special guy. I am not particularly smart. I did work really hard to get here, but ultimately I am just one person, and I don't have anything that anybody else doesn't have. I don't have the education. I don't have any money. None of that. 3 months ago, I had none of this stuff. And I think everybody else is in that position too. Everything could change for you overnight if you do the right things. And so I think feeling self-empowered, realizing that you're part of this, that you're not just some anon, you're even the anons are really, really important to this, is, I think, very important. And that, yeah, I think we need as many people working on this as we can get.
What is it?
Just hold on a second. God,
It's okay.
So intense.
No, yeah. No,
I'm a very emotional person. And we're
No,
tapping
but-
into something that like is really big.
Take your time. This is a really big emotional thing. I mean, like I said, kind of off camera in a way, like Thread Guys sending me messages saying like, this might be the end, like save your kids. Like, you're not. So I heard that actually 2 days ago, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to
I think
do
it's
with
not
this?
the end. It's just the beginning, actually. This is the first time that we as like an entire globe are waking up and like integrating with each other and becoming one. The internet is only it came out in 1994 for most of us. Now it's 2015. Oh God, sorry. Oh my God, 2025. Sorry, it's been around for my whole life.
Yeah, I just want to say, so that you can maybe collect your thoughts for a second. It's actually really refreshing and soothing to see that you have emotions. I know that might make you laugh, but I feel like a lot of people building this stuff are like lizard robots, and that's scary because you don't want people that are that don't care about humanity or me or people and their family and friends. You know, a lot of these people don't have any family. They don't, you know, they're just like work. Let's do this, make $1 billion. And then I don't know what they're going to do with it after, but there's no emotion there.
Yeah.
And to see how much you care is, I'm moved, you know, and it makes me want to join the movement. Like I said, I feel like I'm in the Avengers and I'm being called to save the world. And I think that's really important. I think it gives people purpose. And it's like, it's true. You're not just an anonymous person on the internet, especially if somebody's listening to this right now, you're listening to this for a reason. You stumbled upon this clip or video for a reason. And even if you don't have any code background, or if you don't know what crypto is and you don't know how even what the heck is going on and what we're talking about, that's okay. There is a reason. You're watching it for a reason. You have a big part of it. Like I said, getting into this space changed my life. I had no idea about crypto. I couldn't read a chart. I still can't. And it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Like you said yourself, you don't even like to trade, or you're not a good trader. You don't need to be a good trader to make it or to save the world. You just need to participate and have the desire. If you have the desire, the customer will come. The thing will come. It all just starts with the desire, which is the seed of everything.
Yeah, not everyone has to be a programmer or has to be any of these things. I think people like raising their families and like keeping humanity alive, really important.
No, I mean it's beautiful, and I'm happy that we have you leading us to keep humanity alive.
We need more leaders. We need more people doing this. This can't just be one person at the top. This is a movement. It needs a lot of people to come forward and like work really hard and make this happen.
I want to join you in the movement.
You're already part of it.
I want to be a part of it. I want to, you know, I too, you know, have a family that I care about, people that I love, people that I take care of. But I also need to be 24/7 in this industry, and I can't take a moment off. And I feel like sometimes life is flashing me by, and I'm like, you know, I'm spending all this time trading and trying to make it and make money and do this. Well, I need to make money because I need to pay rent, and I need to do this and I need to do that. But I feel like moments are passing me by, and you know, when the idea of, oh, I can have an AI agent that can, you know, help me make videos or do the things that maybe I don't want to do so that I could do other things, it gets me really excited. How do I go about making an agent of myself?
There's a lot of platforms coming where you could just kind of have it hosted, but also like we'll definitely make one. We're working on one. We should definitely collaborate. We've got a Mika avatar in the works.
Ooh.
And we could definitely sit down and go through that and scrape your tweets and all the things you've ever said and make something. That's definitely something we should do and launch with the podcast. It'd be really fun.
I want to, you know, I see a lot of these AI agents, like it's just AI agents, and then it's like attached to avatars, and they don't really have people attached to it. But for me, I kind of want it to be like merged, whereas the other ones I feel like are separate.
Like a digital twin.
I want a digital twin.
Yeah.
Like I don't want a separate profile like Mika AI. It's like I want us to be one person.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then that kind of answers the question of like, well, my AI agent does some of the stuff and I do some of the stuff, and we are kind of one, you know, we're kind of together in this. And I take care of myself, you know. And
I want it to be helping me because I can't possibly tweet all day, or even like doing this right now. I mean, God knows what's going on that, you know, in this industry. It's like we might even turn on our phones and be like, everything is just all sideways.
Yeah.
So how do we stay calm?
I think hope is a big part of this. I think just realizing that in the end, everything will be okay. There was no other way to get to this point. There's no world in which, if technology exists at all, we're not going to arrive at a world where there is AI, where there is all of these things. We can't turn it off. We just have to get through. We have to, like, what we can do is maybe make sure that it heads in the right direction. We can't stop it. We can definitely, like, change the direction of it for the better. And I think that if people really sat down and asked themselves what they wanted, like, do I really need $1 billion? Like, what do I really need that for? Like, what I really want is to have enough. And there's a whole bunch of other things that I think make people wealthy, like having friends, having family, having connection and community. And I think that if we just do the things that we want to do, it will be okay. It's when we do the things that we don't really want to do, or we're doing them for reasons that we haven't really thought about. We're just like lizard brain pursuing wealth and status. But like, I can tell you, having a lot of followers is not always the most enjoyable thing. It's probably not the thing that's going to make you the happiest. It can help you in your career. It can help you get the other things you want. But those other things are like, you should just get those things too. And I think, I don't know, it's hard for me to be calm. My day is getting up every morning and like you, just grinding really hard. And I don't even really get to ask myself these questions a lot of time, and which is, I think, why we need more people. We need more leaders, and we need more people who are talking about the human elements of this, and the family and friends and community elements of this. And I want to be part of a community where some people are builders and some people are looking out for that stuff, so that I can also enjoy the fruit of that. And I think I'm not calm, but I'm definitely full of optimism. I'm full of hope, and I know this will go well.
Just enough time.
Just enough.
What's up, everybody? If you like this type of content, make sure to give the channel a subscribe, a like, and share this with your friends and family, because we need to save the world. So let's get back to it. Does any number come to mind?
I don't know. It's so hard to look even 3 months into the future. I mean, we're doing it. We are doing it right now. We're building it. We're making sure that it's decentralized. We're making sure that there are paths for people to have enough and to continue to have enough. And I think it's going to be crazy stuff like DeFi that ends up being the lifesaver. It's going to be like, oh, my money makes me money, so I don't have to work. I don't have to worry about it. Oh, I can actually invest and get exposure to these things. So even though the robots are out there building, like, I'm the one getting some of that value. And so it's like building the infrastructure, building the communities, building the society, building every single part of it. We all have our part to play.
Just to get a clearer vision, if I could ask, who exactly are we up against, or what?
I think even the people at the biggest companies in the world are on our side. I don't think that this is like an us versus them. It's like kind of us versus an existential reality of like things changing so quickly. Sam Altman is saying the same stuff. He wants everybody to have access to this. He wants intelligence to be too cheap to meter, so that it's just like everybody gets to have a super intelligent thing on their phone that helps them with all of their problems. I think there are people at every level of the stack who really do want good. I think the people who are running Microsoft are, they want AGI for everybody too. I think if they came down to it, they'd probably make the hard choice not to get all the value if it killed society. I think none of us want to walk down the street and have it be full of homeless people and people who are drug addicts and full of, have no purpose. Like, even if you're the most selfish psychopath in the world, you want to be able to live in a world where things are nice and everybody has enough so that they're not taking from you. And so, like, we can be selfish, but we have to be very long-term in our selfishness. And we have to see that actually making sure that it goes well for everybody else will make our lives so much better and so much more enjoyable. I'm okay with people being selfish. They just have to be long-term thinking about it. And I'm okay, like, I don't see anyone as the enemy of this. It's not us versus the VCs or us versus the corporations. Like, they're part of this. They're in this with us too. They're facing the same crisis. We should be giving this to them as well and empowering them and sharing this vision.
That's a beautiful way to put it, because I think there's always this us versus them. That's why I asked you, like, who are we up against? Like, what's the battle going on? But even if we do succeed, won't there always be... I mean, we wake up, right? We build the AI agents and they're working for us. We don't have to work. We could spend more time with friends and family. But then don't we lose, in a way, this sense of purpose?
I mean, I don't know. Like we're not going to lose competition. We used to like kill each other. Now we have sports. And it's not like the people on the sports team like hate the other team. Like, even at the end of the day, everybody shakes hands because it's like, yeah, you beat me, but I'll beat you next time. But we had fun. And I think that as long as we're having fun, it'll be all right. Fun is like this, like hitting the reward mechanisms of your brain. And like, as long as we're enjoying it, I think it will be okay. I mean, what is our purpose? And I think it comes back to where we started. Like, I don't even think we can ask ourselves that question until we're free. I think it's just too many perverse incentives. But if everybody was truly free, and when I mean free, I mean like you spend every minute of your life doing what you want to do, then you say, well, okay, well, what do I want to do? I want to like actually like, why am I here? What is this? That's crazy. Like how does matter stick together? How do things, like how does everything work? And what are the potential futures we could have? And we just don't even really have a lot of time to ask ourselves those questions. And I think if we did, and that was like, and all the status games were kind of like eliminated, because like you are not going to be better than an AI at anything. You can spend your entire life being a musician, and you are not going to be better than the AI music generator at anything. But that doesn't mean that you can't still make music and enjoy it, and like enjoy playing music with other people. And yeah, I think I worry a lot that people are not going to have purpose, but I think that we'll figure it out. I think there's a lot of paths to that. And it's hard for me to see them all the time, because we're in this kind of like world that has so many people pursuing things that are like very PvP. But I know for myself what I would do, and I would probably spend a lot of time like trying to answer these questions. I spend a lot of time learning. I spend a lot of time studying. I'd love to go to space. I'd love to go underwater. We could do all of that. We could all have all of that.
Is there a reason why you can't do that right now, in a way?
I mean, I can, but I don't think I'm free until everybody's free. And I don't really think I'm rich until everybody's rich. And I really want to see this all go well. And then once we've done that, yeah, sure, I'll just get to enjoy it.
I know that you do have to go save the world and everything. You did share a lot with everybody listening, and I think, this is the most moving conversation I've ever had in my life personally. But is there anything else that you want to leave people with?
I think, let me think about that for a second.
Yeah, take your time.
I think each one of us is the center of the universe, and we all have a role to play in this. And if you sit back on the sidelines, it's going to happen to you. But if you engage with this world and you actually like try to make things go better for yourself and everyone else, it will happen. We have an enormous amount of agency. We can do a lot. You matter. I matter. I think that we could make the world we want to live in, and we just have to do it. We have to start today.
Hear that, everybody? Calling all agents, not just AI agents, but agents of the world. We are recruiting for our mission to save the world. So if you like this conversation, share it. Share it with your friends. Share it to grandma. Share it with your family. You all matter. It doesn't matter if everything that we talked about is gibberish. Start today. You're not too late, and we just have enough time. Mm-hmm. So
let's fucking go.
Let's go. Over and out, Mika and Shaw in Tokyo. This might be a simulation. I'm not even sure.
I'm not sure either.
But I guess I hope we do this. I'm optimistic too, Shaw. I mean, I'm down. I'm excited, and I'm ready to change and save the world. I always felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself, and I agree. I think the quote unquote Messiah that all these ancient teachings have been talking about is like one unified consciousness, and I think that we're breaking kind of like the matrix and simulation where everybody feels like the veil is slowly coming down, which is why we all feel this sense of urgency, because we know that something is happening and we know that something is coming, and the veil is very small in this timeline that we're in right now. Last question, are we in a simulation?
I don't know, but every day I think if we are in a simulation, it's probably with the goal of figuring out this problem. And so maybe it's like a self-simulating agent that's trying to like solve the next set of problems. But it is interesting that we are in this time of all times, that we're in the time where everything we've ever done is recorded, everything is remembered, and it will be remembered forever. So whether this is a simulation or not, there will be a simulation where we have this identical conversation at some point in the future.
Over and out. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That was beautiful. Holy shit, we're going to save the world, guys. What the hell? Wait, before you jet and just left me
Yeah.
with that one. Like I don't even know. We need to take a photo.
Yeah,
because
sure.
This will be the last. That was the craziest conversation I've ever had in my life. And I think this is going to be the most important conversation that you hear this year in 2025. I think that it was so important that Shaw shared his raw emotions with us, because it feels very comforting that somebody building this type of technology with this type of power and influence has some sort of humanity attached to it. Because I feel like a lot of people that build this stuff are really robot-like. You know, we joke about all of these big tech founders being like lizards and whatnot. And although I'm sure they're, you know, very nice people, it was really moving for me to see Shaw express himself in the way that he did. And it gave me a whole new, deep, profound mission to continue doing what I'm doing, because sometimes it's so easy to feel like I'm just out of place, or I don't know, I've lost the plot. I feel like a lot of us lost the plot, especially if you're someone that entered the space in crypto, for example, NFTs, art, all of that in 2021, 2022. There was this plot and this mission that we kind of collectively all had together, where it was like, we are going to do this together. This, we don't really know what this is, but it was along the lines of financial freedom, owning your own assets, opening up the conversation of what that means to own your own assets and have true ownership of things, and expanding ourselves beyond what we knew before, and getting into the real idea that knowledge is power, and empowering ourselves and our community with knowledge, and opening up ourselves to the community and understanding the power of community. This was a time during COVID where everybody was really isolated and alone, and we really saw the power of community. So I think over time, money came in the way and some people lost the plot. I know even myself throughout the duration, I guess it's going to be 5 years that I'm in this industry, which is just crazy. It's like a flash. I'm sitting here right now and I'm in Tokyo, and it's just turned 2025. It's January 2025. And I just had the best conversation that I've ever had in my life with somebody very important. I feel like I just spoke to, you know, Bill Gates, that this is my Bill Gates, or, you know, Mark Zuckerberg at the beginning of all of this stuff, because this is a whole new paradigm. This is a whole new world. And I feel like it's so surreal. And although in the conversation we do talk about if this is a simulation or not, and it very well might be, but I think that we're on the right side of history, and I feel more empowered than ever to actually do what I'm doing right now, which is talking to you and sharing with you. And if you're sitting at home and you're like, I don't know what to do right now, well, just participating will lead you to the right place. If you don't have any money, or you, again, are unsure, like I said, I started in this space in the basement, and I couldn't even think about making more than, you know, $2,000 a month. And I couldn't even fathom that type of idea, or even getting out of the basement, or, you know, just making it out. And although there's definitely many more steps to where I quote unquote want to be, I feel very satisfied with where I am right now, and very, very grateful that I'm able to even talk to you that's listening right now, and to have this type of platform. And I don't take it for granted, and I want to do whatever I can to expand that. And I, again, appreciate you listening. If you ever liked any of my content, if you've ever shown up to any of my live spaces, or just had a conversation with me, I want you to know that I thank you. And I really hope that you are enjoying this journey that I'm on, with asking the questions that people are too afraid to ask, and learning these complex concepts, and doing the things that we just did today. It makes everything worthwhile. All the hard moments, all the hard work. Today is just what it's all about for me. And I want to thank you for listening and joining me on this journey. We've only just begun, like Shaw was saying, or will say in the podcast, depending on where you're listening to this. It's only going to get crazier, and it's only going to get, you know, the work has just begun. So again, I invite you agents of the world to join us now on this collective mission to be on the right side of history, and let's make it happen. Again, thank you for joining me on this journey, and I appreciate you. I love you, and let's save the world.